So I'm about to bend some sides in African Blackwood. This is African Blackwood that we cut earlier this year from billets, and it's ready to be bent. This is the outer skin of our side units that we're making, so this is what people will see. And this is the cutaway side, so that's our cutaway there, and it will be cut there, but we always bend the cutaway on it. We don't cut it at this point because it makes getting the curve of the cutaway very, very difficult if we're bending to an end, and we do the miter grain matching cutaways, so there's no binding that's going to go in here. That line is going to follow round the corner into the cutaway. So African Blackwood is it's not the easiest wood to bend, but it's not the hardest. It's full of resin, which makes it it means that you have to bend it quite hot, because what you're trying to do is soften the resin in the wood, and then once the resin's soft, the wood will bend. That's unlike woods like walnut or kind of fibrous woods. They need steam to bend, so we're really bending with heat, just pure heat. We don't really need water, but we are going to put water on because it allows the transfer of heat to be much quicker from the bending iron into the wood, but it's not the water that's doing the work, if that makes sense. Just all woods are different, but this is yeah, we're working on the resin this way. You can see on the bending iron is like really covered in resin. In this case it doesn't matter, but if we were to bend a bit of sycamore or something, we'd have to clean all that off, but that's not what's happening today. For mould, this is a Tirga Mhor, and I'm going to start with the cutaway side, as I say, and we always start from the back, so we bend hard to that line so that we can get our book match join at the end of the guitar. So got my excuse me, outside faces. I know that this is the face. You can also see from the sanding lines as well. So bending aside, you're basically, if you imagine a curve, and you imagine lots of points on that curve, the closer those points are together, the tighter the curve can be. The further apart they are, the shallower the curve. And so each bend is just a very small little bend, and we're going to bend all the way around. And when we get to the waist, that bend will become closer together, so we'll get a much tighter curve. So let's start at the back here. So you can see it's pretty hot. We're running this on 6.5, so it's probably about 190 degrees. So heat, bend, heat, bend, heat, bend. We can see there, so that's already starting to bend, just very slightly. But obviously we're at the back of the guitar here, so we don't need a sharp bend. We just want a slow bend, a slow curve, I should say. So heat, bend, heat, bend. This iron is a bit squinty because it's very old now, and it's kind of burnt its way into its stand. Should make a new one, but I'm trying to bend square to what will be the front of the guitar, square this way, so I don't get a twist in the side. And I want to walk that heat line up. I don't want to kind of lose the heat in it too much. So I don't know if you can see, well, you won't be able to see, but there's lots of bubbles of resin coming out of it already. I've gone a little bit too close together on the bends, so I'm just going to bend it back to get my back into my curve a little bit more. And then start on the bend again. So you can see that we're getting up round the lower bout. Not quite tight enough on it, so I'll go back again. What we'll do with these, we'll bend these, let them cool down, let the resin cool, and then come back to them and take out any bends that aren't just, or any weird bits. But I'm just trying to get it as accurate as I can at the moment. So the other thing you can do is, when you heat the bend up, you can hold it in place until the resins cool down. Because when the resin gets really hot, it becomes really floppy, and it's quite difficult to manage. So you're best just letting it cool down a little bit and then working on. So, and I don't know if you can see here, but we're about to come to a couple of little, kind of, I wouldn't say they're knots, but they're African Blackwood. There's always little bits, little kind of inclusions, and perfectly stable, but they can, because the grain is quite wild on those points, they can snap, which obviously we're really not interested in at all. So I'm just going to take it real slow on those. So we're at the top of the lower bout at the moment, and you can see that the side is coming together quite nicely. Hold that up there. So now this is the flattest part. This bit here is the flattest part of all the curves in the side. So the distance between the heats and the bends is probably as far apart, well, definitely as far apart as they will be. So we'll come into the waist pretty quickly, because I want it to be a really, really shallow curve. A bit dry though. So, and I want to stop on my curve right there. I don't want to go anywhere past that. So, because the waist is the hardest part, because it's the tightest curve. So we need to get ourselves prepped for that. So yeah, you can see basically I'm just shooting off the waist there, just nicely. So what I'm going to do basically, my wet pencil, is I'm going to mark on where I want to start the bend, just before the apex of this center of our waist, and then there, and that gives me the points that I know visually on the bending arm where I need to stop and start. So I know the top of the very, very center of my waist is that line there. So, and I'm bending the other way now, because I'm going to heat bend and then bend around this way. So now this is the top edge of the guitar, so I want this to be parallel, parallel to the top, because then I know the waist is going to be square. So I just get a good bit of heat in there. You can see it coming around real nice. And the distance between my heats and my bends is almost nothing. It's just right next to each other. So that's me. I'm right at the top of the waist there. Coming round. Just run that again. So you can see there, that's the waist of the guitar. And if I put that on, shot maybe, yeah, I mean, maybe about a mil past it. So I'm just going to give it another little bit. So, move a bit there. So, this over here. So you can see there that I'm right on the waist, and it's pretty good. There's maybe a little bit that I could do some work on in there, but for the first bend, that's pretty good. So you can see here, I'm right on the line of the cutaway, and if that was a hard edge there, I would never be able to get that curve as close to the cutaway. Not a chance. So, and that is why we'll leave it on. So now that is basically the cutaway side, first bend done. It will need a little bit of adjustment. However, that's pretty good. That is pretty good.